Hello, this is my presentation for the assignment of English we had about poetry and society. Um, for that assignment, we had to make a presentation and a poem. Well, this is my presentation and a poem I will show you in a couple of minutes. And I have chosen the topic Dangers of Authoritarianism. I've chosen this subject because I think a lot about it, I read a lot about it, um, and I think we are currently in a dangerous movement again to authoritarianism, and I think it's a very bad movement, and people should talk about it more often, and people should be more educated, I think, about it. Um, well, let's begin. I will classify like two types of authoritarianism. First of all, economic authoritarianism, and that's about protectionism. And protectionism basically means, well, it's in a word, it's to protect, um, and it's to protect your own country or region or continent or your own region. And like you have different sorts of measures to do that. The first two I will talk about is a little bit about embargoes and subsidies. Those are uh, generally used most often. Subsidies like for cultural programs or educational programs, and embargoes to against like guns or very poorly um, made goods in from like China or stuff like that. Administrative barriers, second, third thing actually. Um, I couldn't really find a lot about it. It's, in my opinion, or what I've read about it, mostly unofficial. And administrative barriers is like you make it very hard to import certain goods. But like the most used are tariffs and quotas, and in my opinion, they're very bad because in my ideal world, sorry, um, free trade is a necessity and should be one of the most important things when looking at legislation and um, uh, governing a country. And tariffs and quotas, tariffs is like you put a little bit extra. You raise the price by letting importers pay uh, the government. And quotas is like you can. This is the max of certain goods we allow in a country, and I think it's very bad because free trade, proven by time and time again, is one of the most important things if we want a prosperous and wealthy, world. And in our economic globalized world, we whether we want it or not, we have to trade to make those things possible, to be prosperous and have a great wealth and have citizens who are happy and are well educated. So I really feel like we should make sure that this kind of measures are taken as little as possible, because it's just very bad for you and I, like for normal people. And the second kind is nationalism. Most of the times, not always, but almost always, these things go together. And examples are like, well, Trump is one of the best examples, but also Xi Jinping or Jair Bolsonaro in Brazil. And it isn't typically left or right, but it's more, well, just like my presentation about, but more authoritarian. So it isn't typically like this quadrant or that quadrant. It's more like this half. And in my personal opinion, I'm an individualist, of course, because otherwise I wouldn't have chosen this topic. In my opinion, nationalism isn't just foolish. Like being proud of your country, I don't get why you would be proud of your country because, well, yeah, you just were born there. I can do anything about being born in the Netherlands, and someone else can do anything about being born in, I don't know, Cambodia or Congo or South Africa. So, first of all, I think it's foolish, but second of all, it is um, also dangerous because um, it allows most of the time for protectionistic legislation, and also for more authoritarian, not necessarily legislation, but more an authoritarian culture where innovation and free spirits are like limited, and people have to walk the same direction and do the same things as everyone else. And I genuinely think that is just bad for the people, for for like everyone. Sorry, I am really bad at my pronunciation. Last of all, here are my sources. You can check them. Um, this is very opinion based, so I really have tried to look at some objective sources, and economicshelp.org and one of the bbc.com links are really fact based, and the other one I really tried, and they are pretty fact based, but also a little bit biased. But and I could also put some books in here which I've read, but those are really opinion based. I mostly read philosophers, and well, they really try to convince you of their own beliefs. So it was hard for me to do good research, if you want to put it like that. And last of all, I have a poem that I will look. Um, I have some notes down here. My poem mostly about the individualistic approach, not necessarily the economic approach. It is before Flanders fields the poppies grew, where the grass was still wet of dew. This land is so a fertile flow, where every crop got to grow, in places where the lines are drawn, where joyous memories are steadily gone, and individual ideals immerse the battlefields, thus unequipping the creators of the mental shields. Every mind sane and good has lived a life full of debris, every thought merely saved to others with a fitting key. Still, progression is a mental state only for the pure. By preaching unconditional selflessness, thought is broken. The Creator must have carried a weight not thought of and unspoken. The internal corruption is then inevitable. The first two are more metaphor-like, and the first two verses, the third and the fourth, as I have put down in my notes, are more or less Ayn Rand, one of my idols. Well, that was it.